Kunda Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivanadari. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Vishnupad, Paramahansa, Parvati-Acharya, Stotra, Sata, Śrīmad Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta, Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki, Natakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki, Prem Seka Ho Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath, Shyamakunda, Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki, Shri Vrindavan Dhamma ki, Mayapur Navadip Dhamma ki, Jagannath Puri Dhamma ki, Srimati Tulsi Devi ki, Bhakti Devi ki, Jamunamayi ki, Gangamayi ki, Harinama Sankirtana ki, Vyantara Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki, Shri Shri Gaurani Taya ki, Shri Shri Jagannathji Baladev Subhadra ki, Shri Shri Radha Ballabha Bhagavana ki, Melbourne Mahaprabhu Mandir ki, Nitago Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. So I've got everything prepared here. Tissues, water, cough lollies, everything. I don't know, has anybody had this flu that's going around at the moment? Yeah, unbelievable, isn't it? I gave a lecture at a hospital the other day, and I was going okay, and then halfway through, all of a sudden I had a coughing fit. And there were doctors and nurses there and everything. And Is it on? It's not working? Is it working now? How's that? Okay? It's all right, Prabhu? Yes. Yeah? Okay. So anyway, they couldn't help me. So for 5 minutes I was just coughing and spluttering, and then when it all came back together again, then I can continue on. So hopefully that doesn't happen today. If it does, just chant and talk amongst yourselves and I'll be okay in a minute, okay? So we're reading from the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 24, Text 60. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So as I said, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 24, text 60. Yatredam vyayate vishvam vishvasmin avabhati yat tattvam brahma param jyoti aksham eva vishristitam yatredam vyayate vishvam Vishwamin avabhati yat tattvam brahma param jyotir aksham eva vifristritam min avabhati yat Yatredam vyayate vishvam vishvamin avabhati yat tattvam brahma padam jyotir aksham eva vavishritam Yatredam vyayate vishvam avabhati yat Tattvam Brahma Param Jyotir Atva Brahma Jyotishvitam Yatredam Vyayate Vishvam Vishvamin Avabhati Yat Tattvam Brahma Param Jyotir Vishvitam. That was in stereo. Do you want to have a go, Prabhu? Okay. Ladies? Yatredam vyayate vishvam vishvamin avabhati yat tattvam brahma param jyoti akasham eva visritam Yatredam vyayate vishvam vishvamin avabhati yat tattvam brahma param jyoti akasham eva vishritam vyayate vishvam Vishvamin avabhati yat tattvam brahma param jyotir asham eva vrishritam yatra where idam this vajayate manifested vishvam the universe Vishwamin, in the cosmic manifestation. Avabhati, fested. Yat, that. Tat, that. Tvam, you. Brahma, the impersonal Brahman. Param, transcendental. Jyotir, effulgence. Aksham, sky. Iva, like. Vishritam, spread. Translation. My dear Lord, the impersonal Brahman spreads everywhere like the sunshine or the sky. And that impersonal Brahman, which spreads throughout the universe and in which the entire universe is manifested, is you. Translation responsively. My dear Lord, the impersonal Brahman spreads everywhere like the sunshine or the sky. And the impersonal Brahman, which spreads throughout the universe and in which the entire universe is manifested, is you. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. In the Vedic literature it is said that everything is Brahman and nothing else. The whole cosmic manifestation rests on the Brahman effulgence. The impersonalists, however, cannot understand how such a huge cosmic manifestation can rest on a person. Thus, this inconceivable power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not understood by the impersonalists. Therefore, they are puzzled and always denying that the absolute truth is a person. This wrong impression is cleared by Lord Shiva himself, who says that the impersonal Brahman, which is spread all over the universe, is nothing but the Supreme Lord himself. Here it is clearly said that the Lord is spread everywhere, just like the sunshine, by the virtue of his Brahman feature. This example is very easy to understand. All the planetary systems are resting upon the sunshine. That the sunshine and the source of sunshine are aloof from the planetary manifestations. Similarly, the sky or air is spread everywhere. Air is within a pot, but it also touches filthy places and sanctifies places like that alike. In any case, the sky is uncontaminated. The sunshine also touches filthy places and sanctified places, and both are actually produced by the sun. But in any case, the sun is aloof from all filthy things. Similarly, the Lord exists everywhere. There are pious things and impious things, but in the Shastras, the pious things are described as the front of the Supreme Lord, whereas the impious things are described as the back of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita 9.4, the Lord clearly states, Aham tvam idam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matstani sarvabhutani nachaham adtveshvasam. By me, in my unmanifested form, the entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. This verse of the Bhagavad Gita explains that the Lord is spread everywhere by virtue of his Brahman feature. Everything rests on him, yet he is not there. The conclusion is that without bhakti yoga, without rendering devotional service to the Lord, even an impersonalist cannot understand the Brahma Tattva, the Brahman feature. In the Vedanta Sutra it is stated, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. This means that Brahman, Paramatma and Param Brahma should be understood. In the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam also, the absolute truth is described as the one without a second, but he is realized in three features: the impersonal Brahman, localized Paramatma, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate issue, and in this verse Lord Shiva confirms that ultimately the absolute truth is a person. He clearly said, Tat tvam brahma param jyotir aksham eva vivristatam. Here is a common example. A successful businessman may... this thing has got his mind all its own. Where are we? Lord Krishna. A successful businessman may have many factories and offices, and everything rests on his order. If someone says that the entire business rests on such and such a person, it does not mean that the person is bearing all the factories and offices on his head. Rather, it is understood that by his brain and his energetic expansion, the business is running without interruption. Similarly, it is the brain and the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that carries on the complete manifestation of the material and spiritual worlds. The philosophy of monism, as explained here, very clearly adjusts itself to the fact that the supreme source of all energy is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. This is described very clearly. It is also stated how the impersonal feature of Krishna can be understood. Rasoham apaso kuntaya prabhasmi sari suryaho pranava sarva vedeshu sadaki purushom nishu. O son of Kunti Arjuna, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and moon, the symbol Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and the ability in man. Bhagavad Gita 7:8. In this way, Krishna can be understood as the mystic power in everything. Om Agana Timiranda Syagananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripasinubhaya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhya Vaishnavebhya Namo Namaha. So, my dear Lord, the impersonal Brahman spreads everywhere, like the sun's rays or the sky, and that impersonal Brahman spreads throughout the universe, and in which the entire universe is manifested is you. So the first part of this purport was, in the Vedic literature, it is said that everything is Brahman and nothing else. The whole cosmic manifestation rests on the Brahman effulgence. So there is the Brahma Samhita verse, which also confirms this. Yasya prabhava prapato jagadanda koti kotishvasesu vasudati vibhuti binam tad brahma niskalam anantamasesha bhutam govinda maripurusham tamaham bhajami. Translation of that is, I worship Govinda, whose effulgence is the source of the non-differentiated Brahman, mentioned in the Upanishads, being differentiated from the infinity of glories of mundane universes, appears as the indivisible, infinite, limitless truth. Again, from the purport, the impersonalists, however, cannot understand how such a huge cosmic manifestation rests on a person. Thus, this inconceivable power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not understood by impersonalists. Therefore, they are puzzled and always deny the absolute truth is a person. So it's on this that I wanted to... and then Lord Shiva goes on to say, the wrong impression is cleared by Lord Shiva himself. Srila Prabhupada goes on to say, the wrong impression is cleared by Lord Shiva himself, who says that the impersonal Brahman, which is spread all over the universe, is nothing but the Supreme Lord himself. So what I wanted to talk a little bit about today is this point of impersonalism and how it has affected us and how it still affects us within this material world. It is, it is a problem within all the different traditions for self-realization, this point of impersonalism. Impersonalism is actually quite attractive in one sense, because the ultimate end is that you think that you're God. So the other day it was the appearance days of Bhaktivedanta Thakur. And Bhaktivedanta Thakur came in the lineage of Vedantas that were expressing this non-dual, this duality, this bhakti yoga, this understanding that Krishna is the source of everything and the source of Brahman. So he wanted to point out quite clearly that God is a person and the ultimate issue, that everything actually rests on Krishna. So in today's society, we see so many different impersonal things moving into society, from our bank accounts to so many different things. People in the whole refugee situation, we're dealing a lot with the different interfaith groups trying to help the refugee situation. And people throughout the world are really not seeing individuals anymore. They're seeing just herds of people, not really considering that there is a person behind everybody. And so they're treating people in a very, very undignified way, an impersonal way. Similarly, like we have in warfare nowadays, very impersonal. When we read the stories of the great Kshatriyas, they would fight one-to-one. Men and women would be, old men and women would be excluded. There would be a place where they would fight. But in today's impersonal society, we have drones that just full scale just kill everything that's in their path. And then it's just noted that it is just collateral damage. It's not persons anymore, it's just collateral damage. So Krishna is the personality of Godhead. This is what Bhaktivedanta established. Krishna is the personality of Godhead. The Jiva soul is eternally the servant of Krishna. And in this way he establishes the principles of real bhakti. And Srila Prabhupada brought this real teaching to the Western world, which was basically completely inundated with impersonalism. Unfortunately, a lot of people have, from the early years where Vivekananda actually came to the West for the first time, and he brought with him this impersonalist understanding. So the Western people think that actually Hinduism or Vaishnava or Vedic tradition is this impersonal understanding. So this is wrong. So I deal a lot with the Hindu community, and through different outreach works and communication works. And even you see that within this community, this impersonalism is very, very strong. And it's amazing when a person comes to Krishna consciousness, they finally realize how wrong they were about the concept of God and eternality and so on and so forth. So even people that come to the temple, we find so many people that are really not devotionally inclined in a personal way. You can also, Prabhupada mentions also that there are many great reciters of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. If we go to India, you know, they have Bhagavad Sapta and they recite the Bhagavatam, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam or the Ramayana, and practically talk about nothing else but bhakti. But they have no real conception of bhakti, you know. So they even say that, you know, there are the different processes of yoga, but the easiest process is bhakti yoga, the process of love and devotion. And they'll use examples, you know, that we use. And they'll tell stories like we use from the Bhagavatam and so on and so forth. So there was some point that I made some notes on their understanding of the concept of God and how they see impersonalism in their life. So, but their concept is that ultimately bhakti means fixing their mind on what is transcendental through the transcendental medium of the Lord's pastimes and the Lord's name, and you transcend all dualities, and you can transcend that form of God that you're worshipping, and you can transcend the temporary or rendering of devotional service to the Lord, and you can enter into this sphere of what was considered the highest truth in personal realization. That ultimately God is impersonal. He is a supreme formless energy in whom we ultimately all merge. It's this concept of all merging. So before I became a devotee, as most of you understood, I came from a Christian background, which was very personal. For me anyway, it was a very personal understanding of God. When Lord Jesus was praying to God, he would pray, our Father who art in heaven. He had a concept of God. And so, but somehow or another I wasn't satisfied in the Christian tradition, so I started looking at the Vedic traditions, and I became involved with meditation on an impersonal school. And in that school, what the teacher would say, you know, like if you meditate and you study the scriptures and you study and you meditate, after a period of time there's a level of self-realization that happens. And he used to say that it's like, say for example, two people are walking on a path. There's you and there's God, walking along a path. And at one stage, you don't know which side of the path you're on. So you merge with God and then you sit like that. So this was the idea that they told me. So their idea is that for our deliverance, this is their understanding, for our deliverance, the Lord will temporarily accept the form within this world. Because we have a form, we have a personality, we have our senses, we can see, we can hear, we can feel, we can so on and so forth. Therefore, the Lord appears in this material way just to give us a chance to purify our existence. Such persons, when they are narrating Ramayana, the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, and so on and so forth, sometimes you see that the tears are coming to their eyes, but actually they're not attracted to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Still, their aim is, their concept is, just see how wonderful the Supreme Brahman is, that this formless Lord has manifested himself in this wonderful, attractive position, just for me. And so, there was a fabulous analogy in this regard that was given by Radhanath Swami, which is really interesting. Their concept of God is something similar to us going to the movies, although we don't go to the movies too often unless there's a really nice Krishna conscious movie on or something. But when we go to the movies, right, what happens? This is their concept of God in a sense. When you go to the movies, you get caught up in the story that's there presented on the screen, right? There's action, so we feel the adrenaline in our body, and we think, wow, this is really exciting, Indiana Jones or something, like dun, 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 and it really. And then there's a romantic thing, and we feel all compassionate like that. And then there is the hero. We have the hero situation. We identify with a particular hero, and all of a sudden something tragic happens to that hero, and we feel so remorse for that person. Even some tears may come. Oh, my hero has fallen away. And then the movie finishes. And the movie finishes, and all that's left is the white screen and light. That is impersonalism. Okay? So they see the pastimes of Krishna, the pastimes of Ram, the pastimes of the Lord as nothing more than flashes on a screen. And that their emotions are there, but then ultimately it's just white light. So this is the understanding that the impersonalist has. Actually, behind it, we know that the lights, the flashing against the screen, making the appearance of these people, but actually the people are really, they don't exist. It's just light. It's just the screen. So this is the impersonalist understanding. We know that it's just really just an illusion, a movie, but still we identify it with our minds and so on and so forth. So similarly, to this extent, the impersonalists see that in the ultimate end, the Supreme Lord is nothing but this amazing light. Similarly, the impersonalists also chant the holy name of God. There are many people that are profound, very famous all over the world nowadays where they chant the holy name of the Lord. But understanding, and they recite the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, they cry, they dance. We sometimes have the different kirtan and bhajan nights where we go to different places, and we're asked also to chant and dance. And then we see some other of these impersonalists also chanting, and we see people crying and so on and so forth, which are temporary manifestations of some feeling. But in ultimate end, they have this understanding that actually I'm crying for myself. Aham Brahmasmi, I am God, I am the Supreme. Therefore, it's a bit of a warning for the devotees to be very careful. Prabhupada was very careful to warn the devotees that when we go to different places and there is this recitation of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, or there is the chanting by people that are not devotees, it can contaminate us. Lord Chaitanya has said that if you actually hear the teachings of the impersonalists, we should run to the Ganges and bathe in the Ganges immediately because of contamination. So these are things that can disturb a devotee service attitude. So we have to be really mindful of that. Bhaktivedanta Thakur and our great leaders in the Parampara established such clear, undefinable, undefeatable terms that ultimately Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they were fearless in that, And you can understand with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, when he was profound, when he was presenting Krishna consciousness, he was a Shringa Guru. He was very forceful in presenting this personalist understanding. And he had to be, to actually make it clear to people that God is a person. So unfortunately, Krishna is the cause. So ultimately, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That ultimately, Krishna is the cause of all causes. And when we hear his pastimes, when we chant his names, we should be conscious that the absolute truth reciprocates and responds to our prayers in the spiritual world and within our hearts. Today there's a very big mix-up of personalism and impersonalism. You can be listening for hours and hours to people on YouTube and everything about different aspects. There are gurus and philosophers. All of us have this medium now of the internet where we can hear different philosophies, and sometimes even on Facebook we get these different teachers that come up, and we look at them and they sound pretty good. You know, we think, oh, that sounds interesting. In the ultimate end, it all boils down to impersonalism. It's really interesting. When you ask these people, in the ultimate end, is God a person or is God impersonal? They will say God is simply impersonal. They believe that ultimately God is formless, that he doesn't have a form. So even, which is really sad, even in some of the traditional religions of today, and I find this more and more when I'm dealing with people of different faith traditions, they similarly also have an impersonal understanding, even though their founder, whoever founded their religious tradition, was a personalist. Somehow or another, these impersonal things infiltrated that religious tradition, and consequently I've spoken to many rabbis and priests that said ultimately God is formless. So this is again really a difficult thing to face. So this is the world that we're living in. We should learn from our teachers, from the Parampara, that we have to love God, and that love means that there is a personality. It's impossible to love an empty room. It's impossible to love formlessness. It's impossible to love light. It's impossible to love a movie screen. So what the great acharyas are teaching us is that we love a connection with another personality. The reason why the impersonalists find it so easy to believe that God is formless and have this impersonal understanding is basically because of envy. Even though they may make a show that, you know, oh, I'm reading Krishna's pastimes, or I'm reading Bhagavad Gita, or I'm chanting Hare Krishna, ultimately there's a little bit of envy there. I want to be that personality. I want to be God. And so in the ultimate end, that's what they're thinking, that all these pastimes and all these different manifestations in the ultimate end is really me. So Bhaktivedanta Maharaj used to say, the atheist sees God nowhere, but a devotee sees God everywhere. So this is a really interesting thing, because in the last part of this purport, where Prabhupada is quoting the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam Gita, where he says that Krishna says, O Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and moon, the symbol Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound and ether and the ability of man. So it's incumbent upon us to actually see Krishna everywhere. And a devotee of the Lord actually sees Krishna everywhere. Now this is a training that we should also be very mindful of. That we consciously try to see Krishna everywhere. That we are not blind to the fact that this is Krishna's creation. That we actually look at the world and see the wonder of God's creation. You know, in so many ways, the way the seasons traverse on a regular basis, or how the growth of plants happen. There's so many different things. So a devotee has to be very keen and very open to seeing Krishna everywhere. And we can do it. It's an exercise that we actually have to train ourselves to do. And in a sense, there were some really wonderful YouTube clips that Shivaram Swami is now putting up. Anybody seen those YouTube clips? And he was saying how important it is that we as personalists, we understand the responsibility we have to the environment. that we're conscious of actually being aware that everything is God's property, and this wonderful creation is part of God. God is part of that. And so that we should care for it in every way that we can, in simple things, in our lives. And there's a great movement now, the environmental movement, but in a sense the devotees should be part of that, and we should be conscious about that. Recently I saw a little clip that Keshava put up about, just even here, about the plates, that we use stainless steel plates instead of the paper plates. And he was pointing out how over a year we probably individually chop down a tree because we're eating off these paper plates. Huh? We don't? No?
It's made from sugarcane pulp.
Well, then he's wrong.
It's the byproduct
Of the sugar industry. Well, that's good.
Actually, it's to be honest,
No, that's okay.
we'll make an official statement.
Good statement.
Devotees in this temple are not engaged in ugrapana.
Good. All right. Good point. Thanks, Annie. No, that was not right. But in the same token, in our lives at home and everything, we should be careful that we're environmentally friendly, that we do things in a way that's environmentally friendly. So, it won't hurt to bring in a stainless steel plate and eat off that. It's fine. Yeah, I know, we know that. But even now we can do it. We can bring our own plates in and save ourselves $50,000 a year. So,
We already discussed this.
Mm.
If we all bring our plates, then we're going to spend more on water. Right? So the reason why we've got the plan that we have, it wasn't mentioned, and probably should have been, is when we finish the second phase of we've got a place in there that's meant specifically for storing plates
And washing them.
plates with an efficient dishwasher so that we can save money.
That is the personalist way of doing it. So we're environmentally friendly. In the ultimate end, we're going there. We've got a plan. Krishna has a plan.
I'm thinking insensitive people.
There we go.
These things, and we're not worse than the karma.
Well, I never said that, but anyway. All I'm saying is,
Our illustrious leader from the past did.
yeah,
And that was very upsetting for a lot of devotees.
okay, that's interesting, Aniruddha. Thank you.
I'm happy to deal
With the fallout from it, okay.
because people say, why are we treating things like this?
A good point. Thank you very much for bringing that up. The point that I was trying to make was, Hare Krishna, thank you. The point that I was trying to make is that this environment is a big, big thing. Okay, in today's society, it's a big, big thing. And I know within, like Mayapur and also Vrindavan, the devotees are actually consciously trying to clean things up and become more environmentally friendly. So this understanding of to hell with the environment is the thing that's bringing this planet to its knees. Because it's this impersonal understanding that actually I don't care about anybody else. It's me that's the most important, because in ultimate end, when you boil it all down, this whole me concept is this thing of thinking I'm God, and to hell with anything else. So even in our daily lives, we should be really careful about the environment, and there are different things that we can do, and because it's Krishna's creation, and Krishna's part of his creation. So the Krishna conscious philosophy, the philosophy of dualism, established this, that you were never God, you will never be God, and the jiva is always subordinate and a servant of God. This is... thank God. Right. The point is that ultimately boils down to the fact that you are not the controller. And so many in the world today think that they are the controller, but you're not. So you can't control anything. It's really interesting. Sometimes you have a preaching situation, and especially when we used to have, I don't know if that still happens very much, but at the old Gopals and the old Crossways, when I was managing, we used to have someone that would go around and preach to the different people that would come to take prasadam. And in the early days, there were a lot of these impersonalists that would rock up to the crossways or gopals and present themselves, and say, well, you've got it all wrong, God is not a person, we're all actually part of God, and in the ultimate end, we're all God, we all merge into God. And the devotees were very, very adamant and very strong in that, in their preaching. And they would say, but, so you're saying, my dear sir, that you are the controller? And they said, yes, in the ultimate end, I'm the controller. And they said, we used to say, okay, then do me a favor. For 5 minutes, stop blinking. And they'd go, what do you mean? So, you're the controller, you're in control of everything. Just stop blinking. And you'd look at them, and they'd try like anything. I said, that may be a little hard. Let's try something a little easier. Stop breathing. Let's give it, say, 3 minutes. Stop breathing. They can't do it. And then I said, okay, well, what about next time you feel like you want to go to the toilet, don't go. You're the controller. You can control everything. So you just control that. So in the ultimate end, they said, yes, well, when I become realized that I'm God, then I can control my breathing and everything, And this was their bogus argument, when I become God. I said, why would God subject himself to this horrible human condition? If you're God, why would you torment yourself with, like at the moment, having a flu for 2 or 3 weeks, Why would you torment yourself like this? And they would say, oh, this is all Leela. This is my experience. So anyway, it's really interesting. So actually they can't control anything. Lord Chaitanya took the essence of all the great philosophies and he revealed Achincha, Beda, Abeda, Tattva, simultaneously one and different philosophy, and from it we can understand that one and different duality concept. That we are persons and God is a person, and that we truly understand and reciprocate in love with God. So this is the point. We can have a loving, reciprocative, loving relationship with God. That is the highest bhakti. This is the highest taste that one can have. This is real bhakti, true bhakti, not put on bhakti. This is where you actually feel God's presence. Now yesterday there was a really nice class given by Sri Chaitanya about the necessity for us to chant really good rounds. To connect with God, we really have to call out to God. Bhaktisiddhanta used to say, don't think that God is coming to you, you have to make it that God recognizes you. So you have to make an effort to actually say, my dear Lord, I'm here, I'm for you, I'm with you, I love you. So this round, chanting our rounds is of the utmost importance. Chanting good rounds is of the utmost importance. The onus is on us to call out to the Supreme Lord with sincerity, with longing to be with Him, in loving service with Him. And God sees that and He reciprocates with us. He reciprocates with us. The materialist is so infatuated by all different sense gratificatory things. Is so caught up in material life. But as soon as a person becomes a devotee, it's so easy for them to give up these material attachments. We've got the 4 principles. It's so simple. And no meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling. For a devotee, we can just give these things up so easily. I remember before I was a devotee, just to give up smoking was a huge thing. If anybody back in the 70s, everybody smoked. And if you tried to give up smoking, it was just the hardest thing. And I did all these different processes. It was only when I came to Krishna consciousness that it was like, boom, gone. Because you've made an approach to Krishna, He provides the ability in you to be able to give up things. So the onus is on us. In the ultimate end, impersonalism is nothing but selfishness. In the ultimate end, impersonalism is nothing but selfishness.
No service.
No service. No service attitude. So, and the thing that I wanted to mention is that this selfishness can also creep into our devotional life. Impersonalism is something that we have to be mindful of, even as devotees, you know. We have to treat each other with respect, and we have to reflect on how much of a personalist or an impersonalist am I really? How much am I self-motivated, and how much is my mood of giving and surrender? And we have to constantly work at that, because we're all works in progress. Every single one of us is a work in progress to go back home, back to Godhead. So we have to really look at what I'm doing to my companions, my friends and everything, and how am I dealing with them? Am I dealing with them in an impersonal way, or am I dealing with in a humble, personal way? Humility is what we need. That roots out, when we develop humility, it roots out this enviousness that we have. And it's a subtle thing, but when we develop enviousness, it destroys our Krishna consciousness. So we have to be really mindful of that this enviousness is actually a sort of impersonalism. So Lord Chaitanya says we have to be humble, right? Tanora Pisa Nichana, Tanora Pisa Nishna. One should chant the holy name in a humble state of mind, thinking one lowers than the straw in the street. So just this humility is so important. And when we have that humility, when we have that compassion, when we have that understanding that we're simply the servants of God, and then we start, and that the Lord is present within each and every one of us, that the Lord is present within each and every one of us, we start to respect each and every individual that we deal with to the best of our ability. And again, it's like the environmental thing, we have to work at it. And so again, it's like that understanding and seeing Krishna everywhere. It's a thing that we have to work at. Each day, we have to work at that. To see, this is a person I'm dealing with. Let me not just be impersonal and scoff that person off, or mistreat them, or ignore them. Let me be personalist and approach that person with love and respect. There's a verse in Bhagavad Gita which is, a classic, one of the major ones in the 10th canto, 10th chapter, text 9. Machita madgata prana, bodhiyantas parasparam, katiyantas chamam nicham, tushanti cha ramanti cha. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are surrendered unto me, so we surrender. They derive great satisfaction and bliss. This is the key point. They derive great satisfaction and bliss, enlightening one another and conversing about me. So this is the point, enlightening one another, great satisfaction and bliss. Krishna consciousness is a blissful process, is a joyful process. It is a fun process. Unlike impersonalism, which is boring. It is dry, it is empty, there's no love. And if there's a love there, it's a temporary love. It's really interesting, we do Guru Puja and we love Srila Prabhupada. So there was a yoga group that used to come here quite often, and they would see us actually so dedicatedly offering Guru Puja to Srila Prabhupada because we love Srila Prabhupada. So they thought, hang on a tick, we're going to get a murti of our Guru, our Param Guru, and set that up also, and we'll start doing a puja to him as well. The strange thing is that ultimately they want to become that person that's on the asana. I said, why are you doing this? Ultimately, you're wanting to be that person. You're wanting to merge with that person. You don't really love that person because you see it as you. And it was so strange. So anyway, that's what they do. So the impersonal is without juice, without love. Devotees in their relationships have loving relationships, that continue on and on and on. There was an article, I don't know if any of you saw this, on Dandavats, where Bhakti Marg was saying that the Lord resides within our hearts, and all the living entities, we can become somewhat hard-hearted at times. Bluntly, he put it, we become too fanatic in our devotional journey, not considering others. And this is a sort of impersonalism that creeps into our lives. We can become hard-hearted to other devotees. So he was saying that when he first became a devotee, fanaticism he became very much fanatic, very rigorous, Hare Krishna, and didn't see a loving relationship with other devotees as important. It is important. So now he points out, he said, instead of being a fanatic, I want to be a fun-atic. Not a fanatic, but a fun-atic. So in Krishna consciousness, we have to seek out fulfilling things in our Krishna consciousness, knowing that everything we do as a devotee is directly connected to the Supreme Lord. Everything we do. So devotional service is blissfully performed. It's fun. Prabhupada used to say that it is a joy at every moment. So how do we do that? If we find that in our devotional life we're not having a blissful, fun experience, then there's something wrong. We have to check ourselves. What are we doing wrong? Why am I not happy in devotional service? There's something not right. And this may be a creeping impersonalism coming into our lives. So, a classic example, we've had some incidents sometime, that devotees, when they come to Krishna consciousness, they're either in the Brahmachari Ashram or the Brahmachari Ashram, everything's catered for them, and they're doing service and they're fired up and everything. And then they leave the ashram when they're married, and then sometimes there's this understanding that now I'm in the Grihastha ashram, what do I do as far as Krishna consciousness is concerned? And sometimes they're confused to find out what gives me pleasure in the Grihastha ashram. Now most of the Grihasthas, most of the people in the Hare Krishna movement are now Grihasthas. So how does a Grihastha actually derive fun and bliss in Krishna consciousness? So we have to become really introspective and find out what it is that I can do for Krishna that is both pleasing and satisfying and joyfully performed. And there are so many things, but so many people get caught up in Grihastha life and they're miserable. And I say, come on, you have to be able to do some things for Krishna that are fun and enjoyable. And sometimes they say, but what can I do? Well, the first and foremost thing is you can go out and preach Krishna consciousness. That's fun in itself. That's exciting to go on a Harinam, to go and do some book distribution. Even if you're doing book distribution in your neighborhood, just knocking on people's doors and offering them a book. From your income, you buy a set of small books, and you go and present them to your neighbors, introduce yourself as a Hare Krishna. It's exciting. It's fun to do. It may be a bit tentative in the beginning. I don't know if they'll receive me, but you'll be so surprised. When you do something like that, people open their doors. I've always wondered about a Hare Krishna. Or they've never heard of a Hare Krishna. What's a Hare Krishna? Well, we are personalists. We believe in God, and we encourage people to also believe in God. And here's a little book. So book distribution is a wonderful thing. Harinam Sankirtan, to go out on Harinam and chanting the holy name of the Lord, to organize things for Krishna's pleasure. Just recently we had a program where we had some Krishna conscious games, to just do something out of the normal but include Krishna consciousness in your activity and have fun with that. And it brings life to your life, it brings enjoyment to your life. The other thing is that, well, what else can I do? But if everything is centered around Krishna, there are so many things that you can do. Say, for example, gardening. Most people will think, gardening. But you can garden for Krishna. You can grow beautiful flowers for Krishna. You can do so many different things. You can create craft. You can have your deities at home, where you build nice altar and you can develop nice clothing or different creative things, jewelry. You can make jewelry for the deities here. You can make things. These sort of things bring life to you. There's so many different things that you can do. You can work in the community. Instead of just working 9 to 5 and so on, you can actually do some voluntary work outside. Develop a program, either through chaplaincy or interfaith or something, Get out there into the community and meet with people. Hear different philosophies, hear different thoughts, and present your own thoughts and understandings of Krishna consciousness. Meet friends from other traditions. They fulfill your life. There are so many things that we can do to actually make our life interesting, fulfilling, and fun. Not that it has to be too rigorously, and you know, like there is such a big thing at the moment that people are buying huge houses and stuff, and then they're having to work all week and then get another job on the weekend, you know, and they're just trying to cram their rounds in on the train or wherever just to pay the mortgage. Well, time slips away very quickly. Before you know it, you're old. You know, and then you think, well, what happened with my youth? Well, I paid off the mortgage. But there are so many other things that you can do to actually enliven and enthuse you to be Krishna conscious. So we have to take stock of this. We have to really, and the key of it is that you have to connect with God through chanting properly, through hearing properly, by being humble, by developing a service attitude to the Supreme Lord. These sort of things are there. And Krishna is such a wonderful personality, you know, with his 16,108 wives. When I was just reading Krishna book, and you know, you hear about how he has the various pastimes with his wives. And in one part he's playing chess, and another part he's having a massage, and another part he's walking with his wife, and another part he's doing this and that. So he's showing us that in Grihastha life we can actually have a very normal, happy, loving relationship and have a wonderful life, a fun-filled life, a fulfilling life. So if we don't develop these sort of activities, if devotional service has become dry for us, and it's something that we're doing because we're obligated to do it, because we've made a promise, then we really have to look at why we're doing that, and that impersonalism could have crept in, and we have to make a change in that. So if we approach the Lord in an impersonal way, He will react to us in an impersonal way. And if we react to the Lord in a personal way, similarly He will respond to us with love. So the point is, we cannot love a blank movie screen. We have to see Krishna as a personality, and we have to learn how to love Him. You know, this is very important. Impersonalists put an emphasis on oneness of them and God, and the Vaishnavas always put the emphasis on difference, that we're different from God. So there are two reasons why the devotee actually always puts the emphasis on difference. The reasons are that through difference, devotion is born. So when there's one person here, there's the other person there. There's a connection, because there's the pseudo-philosophy and impersonal that literally misleads people in religions all over the world. We don't want to give credence to that. We don't want that misconception. So Prabhupada was so amazing that he came to this world to actually dispel this impersonalism. Every day when we do the pranams to Srila Prabhupada, you know, where we say Namaste Saraswati Devam, Gauravani Pacharane, Nevisesha Shunyavadi, Paschachadeshatarane. He came to dispel this impersonalism, this voidism. And so thereby we have to take up this challenge. And it's by His mercy that He is surgically removing that impersonalism from our hearts. And we have to really focus and try to do the best we can to have no impersonal concept or enviousness within our hearts when we're dealing with the other devotees and we're dealing with our life. When that happens, then we have a very fulfilling and satisfying life. Are there any comments or questions at all, Prabhu? Yes, Prabhu.
My question is, you were mentioning that we should do things that give us, that make fun. But then you have the examples of the movies in Renata.
Yeah.
They don't look for fun, actually. I was reading recently how Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, she even gets angry on the ecstasy that she's being.
Yeah.
Because
And that, but that anger is actually also ecstasy.
yeah.
It's ecstasy on ecstasy. Same with Kunti Devi. where she's saying, please let these calamities keep on happening to me, right? But the fact that that's a connection with Krishna, those calamities are actually a source of joy.
Yeah, this is what I mean, like, because Maharani, she's praying for difficulties. She's not praying for fun.
Yeah.
So, how can we understand?
Well, when we're at the level of Kunti Devi, then we can, but her ecstasy is to have Krishna. So we're not looking for bad things to happen to us. But when they do, we can actually take it in a Krishna conscious way. But for a younger devotee, we have to have satisfaction in our Krishna consciousness. It can't be a dry, speculative thing. It has to have juice in it. And when you love someone, you have juice. You do things for that person, like that. So we love Krishna, and we want to do wonderful things for Krishna. So when we preach, that fills us with joy. When we grow things, like at the farm, if we're growing things for Krishna, that fills us with joy. When we are outreaching, that fills us with joy, because it's all in relationship to Krishna. So even Kunti Devi, who is asking for these calamities to keep on happening, in a sense it's always in relationship to Krishna, because it brings out more and more love for her in connection to Krishna. So it's always a question of bringing out more love to Krishna. That's what we have to. So in our very neophyte way, in our very young way in devotional service, we don't ask for calamities, but we ask for ways that we can serve the Lord, which is fulfilling for us. When we reach the stage of God consciousness, Krishna consciousness, where we can actually cry out for calamities, well then that's wonderful too. Does that make sense? Yes, Prabhu?
For people with a Western background.
With the what?
For people with Western background.
Yeah.
When they start exploring, a lot of them are, and they look at the different traditions, other traditions,
Yeah.
traditions, and then I see a pattern that they get attracted to Buddhism.
Yeah, Buddhism.
Because of
Yeah.
their personal nature. So
Yeah.
you can see that. But they're still open to ideas. Incidentally, just yesterday, I happened to have a conversation with somebody at my workplace who I don't know what is the sampradaya she's attached to. Through yoga, she got attached to some guru. And then to the extent that I was very surprised, she's saying, did you know that I have a spiritual name? And I said, what is it? She said something like Atma Vardhan or something like that.
Yeah.
I first said, this sounds like a male name. How did you use it? So anyway, so she's progressed that far in whatever tradition. But when I asked a simple question, she said she's meditating. I asked, what do you meditate upon? She didn't have an answer to that.
No.
So my question is, as when we're trying to preach in those sort of situations, do you have some tips and strategies? What are the first things? How do we approach them?
A very good question. First of all, Prabhupada always used to say, you have to understand that you're not this material body, so that you're consciousness, that you're a pure spirit soul. And then I make them understand that actually God dwells within you, right? That the Supreme Lord is a person and that we have a relationship with Him. So we're personalists. So we have a battle on our hands, I'll tell you. Buddhism is such a huge thing at the moment, and most people are just going straight into it, because they're looking for some relief from this material world. They understand that it's not the be-all and end-all, and so, they're looking. We have to be equipped to show people that the ultimate goal of Buddhism is an empty room. But we by nature are loving individuals. We want to love people, we want to connect with people. So that is our nature. And our nature is to love the Supreme Lord. There is a Supreme Personality. It's not just a screen, it's not just a light, it's actually a personality. And so we have to convince them of that. And thereby Prabhupada has made his books available, and we present those books to them. And then you allow them to actually ask questions of you. I mean, it's not only Buddhism. There are many so-called gurus out there at the moment. And Western people, you're talking about Western people are getting sucked into. Now they see, oh, he's such a loving person. He has such loving sentiments. And, he's so nice with his disciples and so on and so forth. I'm not going to mention names, but I think you know who I'm talking about. And all of a sudden, if you go right down to the bare bones of the whole philosophy of what he's teaching or what she's teaching, it's ultimately that both you and I are God. We are the unlimited Brahman. Impersonalism. So this is sad, because if you understand that if a person takes to this because they're intrigued by wanting to have a spiritual dimension in their life, and they become absorbed in that, they could be wrapped up for lifetimes with this impersonal conception. So their soul, their real self-realization could be hampered for many, many lifetimes. So it is a duty of the devotee to come along and say, my dear sir, it's nice what you've heard, but it's not the complete picture. Yes, God has an impersonal Brahman effulgence, but beyond that is the person. And when you actually connect with that personality, you'll feel his presence. And every single devotee that started to chant Hare Krishna properly will have that experience. Every single person that is following the directions of the parampara, of the guru, of their spiritual master, will experience Krishna personally. No doubt about it. If you're chanting sincerely, these are no longer just statues on the altar. They are actually the personality of Godhead. An impersonalist comes in here, and we see so many coming in here, and they stand and they pray in front of the deities, with very reverent like that. In their heart, they're thinking, I'm going to merge with you. We have it, that they come in there and they're so, like this. And in their mind, in their philosophy is, eventually, I'm going to be up on the altar there. I'm going to merge with that statue, with that deity. We, on the other hand, from chanting properly, from following our sadhana properly, by reading Prabhupada's books, by dedicating our lives and following the principles and rendering service, we get a taste, we get a drop of nectar, that we enter the room and we see Krishna and our heart fills up, like Janmashtami, On special occasions especially, Krishna just opens and says, hey, here I am. Or Radhastami, and so much the devotees have done such wonderful things to decorate and everything, and all of a sudden your heart fills with love for the Supreme Lord. That's if you're in the temple. Then in other occasions, when you're walking in the street, or you're walking along a beach, or you're somewhere, or you see the birth of a child, or you see a beautiful flower opening up, all of a sudden you realize this is Krishna's presence. And because you're a devotee, you can appreciate the power of the Supreme Lord. And that you're connected with that Supreme Lord. And Krishna loves you 100% as much as he loves anybody else. So if you read Krishna's pastimes with him with the gopis and him with his wives in Vrindavan and so on and so forth, and how much he loves those individuals, he loves you the same. Krishna loves you so much. And it's said that if you take one step towards Krishna, he takes 1,000 steps towards you, or 100 steps, whatever, and you feel it. But you have to follow the process. If you don't follow the process properly, if you don't really make an effort, number one, chant, follow the sadhana, look for Krishna in your work, make sure that you have an uplifting experience in Krishna consciousness by rendering service to him, that's when you start to really feel that personal connection. And then nothing can shake you from that. But Prabhupada still says you have to be mindful, you have to be aware that when you move into those circles where impersonalism is taught, you have to be very careful and really always stay on the right side, Yeah, Aniruddha Prabhu?
It's a challenge because even the personal concept is more advanced than
Yeah.
viewpoint. And what it underlines is the challenge of attracting people who have an inclination towards spiritual life, harnessing that affinity for or that attraction to meditation, and then giving people an opportunity to associate with the devotees so that regularly they're able to hear the alternative. And, because in one conversation we're not going to convince anybody that Buddhism is
Yeah.
very difficult, right? So the challenge is to get them in the association of devotees regularly so they can hear the philosophy. So they're attracted to meditation, so we can create a meditation group and start off with an impersonal meditation and gradually shift it to a mantra meditation and philosophy. So the trick is for us in many ways is to get people into the association of devotees. So when we meet somebody who's interested in Buddhism, say for example, we don't say, this is like you'll never get anywhere with this.
Yeah.
We have to say, that's really fantastic. You know what I mean? And so
Oh, I know what you mean.
quite a challenge for us that because it's very interesting in the conversation between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy.
Hare Krishna.
Ramananda Roy makes so many presentations. It's not until he says when a person is regularly hearing, Krishna is unconquerable. But if a devotee regularly engages in hearing and chanting, doesn't give up what he's doing, but regularly engages in hearing and chanting, then the unconquerable becomes conquerable.
Yeah.
So, getting people into that environment
Is the key.
into the association of the devotee.
Yeah.
And I was thinking of what Ishwari is doing in Melbourne, and even at her work.
Oh, yeah.
She's got people who are interested
Yeah.
in meditation and whatever, and she brings them together once a week or once a fortnight, has a guided meditation, chants Hare Krishna, and the thing that really probably kills it is the sharp.
Oh, yeah. But even above and beyond that first, even above and beyond that, all those things are true. But the first point of contact, if a person is genuinely a lover of Krishna, then his relationship or her connection with the devotee, if the devotee is 100% fixed and a lover of Krishna, and they see that God is within their heart, that friendliness, that compassion shines through. And people will start to say, there is something about that devotee, about that person, that's different from everybody else. And it's that keeps, and that's personalism. Because you see that person not as one that we merge with, you see that, and not in an envious sort of way, we see that person in a genuine, loving relationship. What Aniruddha was saying was right. When we first came here to Krishna consciousness, we were impersonalists. We used to come into this room and we used to sit along the wall there and meditate. And everybody else was japa, chanting, And the guru at that stage, the devotee, the advanced devotee, brought us into his room, right? And he said, so you are all doing this meditation technique? And we were very proud and very puffed up and thinking, yes, we are doing this. And he said, very good. Very, very good. And he said, what else are you doing? We said, we're doing that, and this is again a point of, pride. We're doing this TM Cities program. Oh, what is that? He said, it's from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, and we do this levitation. Oh, very good. And we said, but we like Krishna consciousness. That's good. Then also chant a little bit. So we said, he's a nice guy. Yeah, we'll chant a little bit. He said, but whatever you do, he said, don't give up this meditation. If you give up, it could be very dangerous. And we go, wow, really? okay, but add the chanting of Hare Krishna. So we were chanting, and we're going, wow, this is really... And Krishna is so tricky. We all know that, right? He's so tricky that when you start chanting, right, there's like, you get an extra bonus booster, you know? It's like the first time you start chanting, you go, wow, this is really far out, you know? So anyway, we started chanting. We were all in the house together, you know? We were all doing this meditation, and we started chanting. We're thinking, wow, this is really good. And we did this levitation thing, which was we had a garage full of foam rubber, and anybody that knows TM cities, we do this levitation, hopping, which Prabhupada called frog hopping. A frog can do this in the toilet as well, but we used to woo, 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 like this. And all of us started going, actually, it's more fun doing this. So then we started chanting and more chanting, and we do 16 rounds. Then we said, forget this other stuff, we're just going to chant, you know. But Bhavananda said that we shouldn't give it up. Forget it, Krishna will protect us. So then we did 32 rounds, 64 rounds, just chanting, you know. And then we were won over. But it's also, not only that, but also the friendliness and the compassion of some of the devotees that took us on board. I still remember, you know, devotees that were sincere devotees, that through love of Krishna and love for their fellow man, you know, took us on board. You know, Bhagavad-Acharya, who's still my very dear friend, you know, he was so compassionate to us. He would come to our home and have a hot milk with us and show us how to do things, and we'd be invited to his home, and we'd have prasadam at his house. So these are things that we as grihastas can do to bring these people into Krishna consciousness. Friendliness is the key. Oh, that person was so friendly. It was such a nice association. And you won't get that anywhere else. That real friendship, on a heartfelt that you are my God brother within Krishna, you won't get that anywhere else. You won't get that. There'll be a sort of a veneer of friendship at some of these groups, but in ultimate end, the greatest, you know, we had recently a couple of years ago, where people had surrendered to this guru who they thought was full of love for them. And in the end, he used them. He used them and he abused them, sexually abused them, because they thought that he was doing such a wonderful thing. And now they're left and they're floundering. They have no idea of what they should do spiritually. They were used. So in Krishna consciousness, Krishna conscious devotees don't use people. They want to encourage people. Does that make sense? So that's how we battle it. Thanks, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu, quickly. You want the microphone? Oh, cool. Do you know? Oh, yeah, I know what you're going to ask. I know what you're going to ask. Today is Vishwarupa Mahotsava. What is that all about, Bhaktadas? Right? Am I right? No, you're not. Okay, so he always does this to me, you know. Today is Vishwarupa Mahotsava, in that's Lord Chaitanya's brother. And Lord Chaitanya was... Huh? Yeah, also that's right. Okay.
Hare Krishna. When you're saying about the connection with Lord is very important. And Prabhupada said that Krishna loves us million times more than even mother's love. Srila Prabhupada said that Lord Krishna loves us, each of us so much, million times more than the mother's love. So we can appreciate how much Krishna loves. There's one point. Second point was, I was going to tell you a story which I heard recently. In Mumbai, there was a big commotion, the Taj Hotel, terrorist group, you know, terrorist group. They killed lots of people. So there was a devotee there from Mumbai temple, and in that terror attack, because he was one of the commandos, commando group. So they were trying to, the terrorists were very well prepared for months, weeks and months together to kill people. So what happened that when the commando group came into to kill them, they put tear gas. So with tear gas, the commandos could not see much. So in that commando group there was a devotee. What he did, he just fell flat behind the pillar and he started praying Narsinghdev prayer. Namaste Narsinghai. And then what happened that lot of people were killed in that, but in that group behind the pillar, nobody was killed. So you can see the connection with Krishna and compassion and the prayer. How much, yeah.
Doesn't necessarily mean that it will always happen.
Yeah, that's right. But you have got compassion because as a devotee, he has saved so many people. Those behind the pillar, none was killed. Otherwise, hundreds of people were killed in that disaster, terrorist attack. In Mumbai. Yeah. Thank you.
Throughout history, we see that sometimes devotees are martyred. We can't be in illusion in that. But the Lord has His plan, so sometimes we surrender to whatever Krishna brings before us. We're surrendered to that. And when we have love for Krishna, irrespective of what happens to us, and that's again this whole thing with Kunti Devi, irrespective of what happens to us, we don't care. All I care about is I want to love you, my Lord. And if it's in this lifetime or in the next lifetime, whatever.
His devotee was praying for everybody.
Yeah, I understand that.
And he said, if by chance I am also killed, I'll see my Lord.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I understand that, but it won't happen all the time. We can't be in illusion to think, I'm in a difficult situation, let me now chant the Sringadev prayers or chant Hare Krishna and I'll be saved. You may not. At that instance, He protected. But in other instances, that may not happen, that might not be the plan of the Lord. But we have to understand under any circumstances, Krishna loves us. And everything that's happening to us is of value. Yeah, Bhakti? Yeah, exactly. The spirit soul is always saved. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Bhakti. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.